Mark this edge.
It's late August, and UVM Extension agronomy specialist Kirsten Workman, along with Kristen Williams and Daniel Inferna, are quite literally plotting out how to improve Vermont's water quality.
We're in a soybean field laying out some demonstration cover crop plots. And one of the things we're looking at is, instead of just winter cereal rye, can we do these cover crop mixtures that folks have become more interested in? So we're basically trying 10 different mixes and seeing how they perform in different cropping systems and planted at different times, and seeing how they do here in Vermont on different soil types.
Winter rye is the most widely used cover crop in Vermont. Farmers like it because it's a low-cost, reliable, and beneficial tool that gives them, agronomically and financially, the most bang for the buck. For Workman, finding the right mix of cover crops increases yields, improves soil health, and prevents nutrient runoff.
Our goal is to have a living, growing plant 12 months a year. That's the best case scenario. That can be really difficult, especially in our growing season here in the north. Winter rye is really a great cover crop because it's so winter hardy. In the fall, it doesn't grow a whole lot. Unless you're planting really early without competition, it's not going to tiller and really fill in. Where if you're planting something like oats or a daikon forage type radish, you're going to get a lot of good ground cover in the fall. And then in the spring, when the winter rye does really well, if you mix those things together, then you kind of get the best of both worlds.
This all-for-one approach extends beyond the farm gate. Cover crops curb erosion and keep nutrients in the soil. By keeping the ground covered, nutrients are locked in place and don't run off.
So cover crops and reduced tillage and good nutrient management planning are really the backbone to our water quality best management practices when it comes to Lake Champlain and excess phosphorus. If we can keep that phosphorus in the field and the nitrogen and the potassium in the field and have it fertilize a crop and have high yielding cash crops that then take up that phosphorus and nitrogen and potassium, we'll keep it from then getting into our watersheds. So we all have a watershed. Every field is going to drain somewhere, and wherever there's low spots, if you have erosion, then that soil is going to move off the field, probably into a ditch, and then all of that then eventually ends up downstream.
The biggest impacts on water quality in Vermont come from roads, parking lots, housing developments, water treatment facilities, and agriculture.
Eric, when did you plant this winter rye?
This is about the first week of October.
Eric Clifford is a dairy farmer in Starksboro. He understands what's at stake for his business and for Vermont when it comes to water quality.
Certainly some of the practices that were done in the past have contributed to some of the water quality issues that we have here in Lake Champlain. And so we've inherited some of those problems. We've also created some of them ourselves. So we just need to step up, do some better management. We'd like to think that we're going to be able to increase the soil health, have a clean lake, and make a good living at the same time. And that's what we're striving for.
Clifford's farm was another test site for Workman's research on cover crop mixes.
We're really excited about working with UVM Extension because we haven't had really concrete recommendations based on each of our soil types that we have on my farm. And those are what we need in order to make good decisions. And really, for the first time, Extension is going to be able to give us those kind of recommendations. But what we've been learning, going along with and working with UVM Extension, has just been a lot of fun. It's been really educational. And we think that down the road, it's just going to be good for our farm and the lake.
All the farmers that I've worked with are interested in being part of the solution, not part of the problem. I don't think any farmer wants to be part of the problem in Lake Champlain. So what we're trying to do is identify practices that make sense for water quality and soil health, but don't mortgage the farmer's productivity or bottom line. We're trying to keep cover crop mixes sort of in a target range of cost per acre, and then do it in a way that will hopefully actually not only not detriment yields and not detriment the bottom line, but really actually improve all those things.
We know it in gallons.
To manage nutrients and measure what effect cover cropping has on their fields, farmers create nutrient management plans. Among other things, these plans evaluate soil loss and nutrient runoff.
All farms that have a nutrient management plan are estimating their soil loss already. And when we add to that model that they cover cropped, oftentimes it reduces their expected soil loss by half. If you have a cover crop, you're going to see reduced erosion and less phosphorus loss. And then we can do some estimation on that. Because farmers want to know that too. They want to know that if they're going to go through the time and the energy and the money and the effort to, let's say, drive into their soybean field and plant a cover crop, that not only hopefully will it help their soybean crop next year, but they want to know that they're helping. They want to be able to say, yeah, I did something and it's helping Lake Champlain.
It's November, and the soybean field looks much different. The soybeans have been harvested, and all that remains is what researchers call residue. As for the cover crops, they're thriving. Workman lays out a line with tiny beads on it. As she walks up and down the line, she tallies the number of times a cover crop touches one of the beads. From this number, she determines the percent of coverage on the field.
As an agronomist, I want to know how the cover crop's growing. So does the residue inhibit the cover crop from being able to grow? And I think we say no. There's not enough residue out here to keep the cover crop from growing. We've also planted it before the residue was there, so it got a little head start. And then also we look to see, can we gain any benefit from the cover crop above and beyond the residue that's out here? And again, I think right now our answer to that is yes. And definitely in our corn silage fields, where the entire crop gets pulled off the field, we definitely see benefits from the cover crop.
Another aspect of this research is to find out what percentage of nutrients get absorbed by the cover crops themselves. After being dried, the crop is weighed and then put through a grinder. The ground up materials are sent away to a lab to be tested for phosphorus, potassium, and nitrogen. This is the first year of a 2-year study that's funded by an innovation grant from the Natural Resources Conservation Service in Vermont. Workman is already looking forward to spring when she can see how the crops did over the winter and how she can take what she's learned and further expand this research.
We're trying to experiment and fail first so that the farmer we don't give them bad advice and they do it on 100 acres and they fail on 100 acres. I'd rather try something, fail on 1,000 square feet, and then as we learn, then we're seeing farmers adopt new things. So if we can find practices that work well, benefit the environment, help the farm production, then it's a win-win for everybody, and we win in the lake, and farmers will adopt those practices, and hopefully it helps them stay in business longer, and hopefully we have a better functioning system as a whole.
The story of improving water quality in Vermont is far from over. But on these plots, there's promise that a solution is in the mix. In Charlotte, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.